What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to another gun guide. This is the series where I go into great detail with all of the stats as well as some excellent attachment combinations for every gun in Modern Warfare 2. And in today's episode, we're going to be moving on to one of the brand new Season 1 weapons. This is the M13B. And starting it off with our damage profile, this one actually deals the same amount of damage anywhere in the body. It deals 24 damage up close and 19 at a distance, which means it's going to be a 5 to 6 shot kill. However, of course, we do deal extra damage to the head and neck, and it turns out at any range, just mixing one single headshot in with a body shot will reduce the number of shots to kill, which is great. Therefore, headshots you definitely want to be going for whenever possible with the M13B. As for our rate of fire, this is quite fast for an assault rifle in this game at 845 rounds per minute. And then let's have a look at our time to kill potential, which unfortunately isn't very good at all. It's actually pretty bad for just body shots with this gun at 284 milliseconds in the 5-shot kill range and 355 milliseconds in the 6-shot kill range. This is now the slowest killing assault rifle in the entire game. Most of the other assault rifles kill in around 200 to 215 milliseconds up close. Not the M13. However, if we do land that headshot mixed in with body shots, we can get a 4-shot kill for a time to kill potential of 213 milliseconds, which is now just average for an assault rifle. So if we're just looking for raw killing power, the M13 is not a good option. But moving on to our bullet velocity, this is standard for assault rifles at 590 meters per second, and then let's get into our ranges. And as we can see here, we only have one damage range drop off, and that happens at 32 meters. So one nice thing about this gun is it's at least pretty consistent, and also something I didn't mention in the time to kill section, our long range time to kill is actually faster than most of the other assault rifles out there. So if you are really stretching the range out, that's where the M13 starts to excel. As for tier 1 or hardcore game modes, the M13 is unfortunately not a one-shot kill anywhere in the body. It's always going to take you at least 2 shots to kill. However, if you hit them in the head or neck within 32 meters, you are able to get a one-shot kill. Then let's get into Hipfire, which is just standard for the assault rifle category. And it's a similar story with our idle sway. There's definitely some sway while aiming down sights. I think there are definitely worse assault rifles in this area though, so I wouldn't say it's terrible here. After that, let's have a look at our recoil, and as we can see, the M13 is quite accurate. It kicks basically just straight upward with a very slight lean to the left, but there's nothing unpredictable about that. It's very easy to predict and control, and there's not much of a gap between these bullets as well. This is actually one of the most accurate assault rifles in the entire game, and this really goes along with that good time to kill at longer ranges as well. That's where this gun excels, is longer ranges, not so much up close. Next up, let's move into our handling stats, and our aim down sight time is pretty standard for assault rifles at 240 milliseconds, and our sprint to fire is also standard for assault rifles at 210 milliseconds. But then let's get into our reload add time, which is actually pretty impressive. It's 1.35 seconds, which is quite noticeably better than average for an assault rifle, and that's another small area where this gun stands out. And finally, for the base stats of this gun, let's get into our mobility stats, and the base movement speed as well as the sprint movement speed are both essentially right on average for an assault rifle, so nothing out of the ordinary there. However, our aim walking movement speed is noticeably better than average for the assault rifles, so that's something you may want to consider when creating your builds. And that wraps it up for the base stats of the M13. Now let's move on to the barrel stats, and we only have 2 barrels on this gun. And taking a look at how these barrels impact our ranges, the 14-inch barrel will increase our range value by about 18.75%, which is a very nice increase, whereas the 7-inch barrel will reduce our range by about 13.75%. Now, of course, ranges aren't everything. Let's have a look at how these barrels impact our recoil. And that 14-inch barrel does tighten up our recoil a little bit, although we had a bit of an outlier for the second recoil plot there. There's a weird gap between the second and third shot fired. But generally speaking, you are going to notice a nice recoil reduction with the 14-inch barrel, whereas the 7-inch barrel definitely increases some of that random side-to-side bounce with it, but it's still quite an accurate and controllable gun, even with that short barrel. Now, of course, another important stat to look at with the barrels is how they impact our aim down sight speed. And that 14-inch barrel, while it does help nicely with range and recoil, it really does hurt our aim down sight speed a lot. It's now going to take you about 320 milliseconds to aim down sight, which is quite slow. Whereas with the 7-inch barrel, this one improves our aim down sight speed a little bit, down to around 225 milliseconds. And now that we finally got all the important stats covered, let's get into some excellent attachment combinations that I've got for you guys. And the first build I wanted to share is my accuracy build. This is going to be great if you're challenging people at longer ranges. It's excellent for the battle maps like Ground War and Invasion. It's probably a good setup for Warzone as well, but I'm not covering Warzone on this channel, and the stats may actually be entirely different for Warzone. I really don't know. Although if I was using this in Warzone, I'd probably put an extended mag on there. But for a longer range build, this one is one of the best in the game in my opinion because it's so accurate. And with this, we're using the X10 ported muzzle. This one helps with that little bit of muzzle climb that you get when you first start firing your gun. We've also got the VX Pineapple underbarrel. We've got high velocity ammo because we are using this at longer ranges and therefore bullet velocity is really going to come into play here. I've got the Slimline Pro optic on there just because that's my favorite. And then finally, we've got the 7 milliwatt laser. This is the same as the OLEV, it's just a different name for it. And this is to help counteract the slower aim down sight speed we're getting with the other attachments while also improving our aiming stability. And when we have a look at the recoil on this, it is very, very accurate and easy to control. Those bullets are stacked really close together, especially the first few fired, which are the most important ones. And that makes this an incredible setup for just beaming people at longer ranges. You might notice I'm not using that 14-inch barrel, and you might think that would be a good option for a long-range build. But I just found that one attachment alone hurt our aim down sight speed so much that in order to compensate for that with other attachments, we now lose all of our recoil benefits because they tend to be on the opposite ends of the spectrum. So I just don't like using that 14-inch barrel, at least for the multiplayer modes. So that's my accuracy build, and honestly the one that I would probably lean toward because that's where this gun really excels. But having said that, when we look at the multiplayer maps in this game, there's often not really great long practical lines of sight. So I also wanted to share an aggression build. This is by no means going to be like dominating SMGs or anything, but at least it gives you a chance against them while you're being aggressive. And with this, we are using that shorter barrel. We're once again using the 7 milliwatt laser. We've got the shark fin underbarrel, high velocity ammo, as well as the Bruin Flash V4 stock. And when you combine all of this, the recoil is worse than the base version of the gun, but honestly, within the ranges you should be using this sort of a setup, it's still very manageable. It shouldn't be an issue for you. You're not going to be picking people off across the map with this. Whereas when we look at the benefits here, we've got a very fast aim down sight speed at about 200 milliseconds. That's competitive with SMGs. Our sprint out time is also noticeably better than the other assault rifles now. Our sprint speed is also great for an assault rifle. This is more in line with the SMGs at 6.07 meters per second. And our aim walking movement speed is very noticeably boosted here as well. So you can actually strafe into gunfights or also just strafe in the middle of gunfights to try to evade some shots. So there we go, that's my aggressive build. Like I said, this is not really going to be highly competitive with SMGs in close quarters or anything, but it at least gets you on the right track if you're trying to use this a bit more aggressively or if you're just playing on smaller multiplayer maps. And with that, that's going to wrap it up for today's gun guide on the brand new M13B in Modern Warfare 2. As for my thoughts on this gun, while it doesn't have the greatest killing potential, and in like small close quarters maps, it's probably not going to be your best option, I do find that with the high fire rate being quite forgiving for any missed shots, as well as that really good accuracy with this gun, I feel like that often makes up for that lack of killing power, and I love this gun for longer ranges as well. So I think it's a lot more usable than the raw time to kill would suggest. But at the same time, I don't think this is a very highly competitive gun, at least within the 6v6 maps in this game. Now, of course, those are just my opinions on the M13, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about it in the comment section down below. And also, if you guys have missed any of the previous episodes of Gun Guides, I will, of course, leave a link to the playlist in the description. And also, I will be skipping ahead to cover the BASP, because I know a lot of you guys are looking for the stats on that, so that will be the next episode. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.